The phone buzzed against my desk, its screen lighting up with an unknown number. My heart skipped as I glanced between it and the damning documents spread across my computer screen. Someone knew. They had to. I'm Samantha, and until that moment, I was just another corporate drone at Quinn Enterprises, working beneath the watchful eye of my Uncle Connor. Family business. The kind where secrets stay buried and loyalty means everything. Or at least that's what I thought until 10 minutes ago. Hello? I answered, my voice steadier than I felt. Silence. Then a click. My hands trembled as I returned to the spreadsheets I'd discovered buried in our company's archived files. The numbers didn't lie. Millions in unexplained transfers, shell companies, and what looked suspiciously like money laundering. My cousin Caleb's digital fingerprints were all over it. Hey, Sam, got a minute? Sophia's head popped around my office door. My colleague's usually cheerful face was drawn with concern. Connor's looking for you. Something about the quarterly reports? I quickly minimized the screen. Thanks, I'll head up soon. Everything okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. I'm fine, I lied, gathering my thoughts. Just processing some numbers. She lingered in the doorway. Listen, if you need someone to talk to... I said I'm fine, I snapped, then immediately regretted it. Sorry, Sophia. It's been a long day. After she left, I pulled up my email and started drafting a message to the SEC. My finger hovered over the send button as memories flooded back. Family dinners, Christmas mornings, my uncle's proud smile when he'd hired me fresh out of college. But then I remembered the conversations I'd overheard, the way Caleb had been acting lately, the unexplained luxury cars and vacation homes. My phone buzzed again. This time, a text from my sister Vivienne. Dinner at Mom's tonight. Don't forget. I closed my eyes, knowing this might be the last normal family dinner I'd ever attend. The evidence was irrefutable. The company my grandfather had built from nothing had become a front for something corrupt, something ugly. Samantha? Uncle Connor's voice boomed from my doorway, making me jump. There you are, coming up to review those reports? I forced a smile, minimizing windows on my screen. Of course, just finishing something up. He stepped into my office, his presence filling the room like it always had. Everything all right? You seem distracted lately. Just busy, I said, standing up. Lots to process. That's my girl, always the dedicated one. He clapped a hand on my shoulder. Unlike your cousin. Between us, Caleb's been worrying me lately. Maybe you could talk to him. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'll try. I lied again, feeling sick to my stomach. As we walked to his office, my phone buzzed one more time. Another unknown number, this time with a message. I know what you found. Meet me at Carter's coffee shop tomorrow at 8 a.m. if you want to do the right thing. Important message? Connor asked, noticing my expression. I shook my head, pocketing the phone. Just spam. In his office, surrounded by photos of our family, including one of me at my college graduation, beaming between him and Caleb, I made my decision. The SEC email sat in my drafts folder, waiting. Family meant everything, but so did integrity. Sometimes doing the right thing meant being willing to burn it all down. Uncle Connor, I said, interrupting his monologue about quarterly projections, have you ever had to choose between loyalty and truth? He paused, studying me with those sharp eyes that had always seemed to see right through me. Interesting question. Why do you ask? Just thinking about grandfather, I guess, about his legacy. Connor's expression softened. He built this company on trust, Samantha, on family, never forget that. I nodded, feeling the weight of my USB drive in my pocket, loaded with copies of everything I'd found. I won't. That evening, after everyone else had left the office, I sent the email. Then I drove to my mother's house for dinner, knowing it would be the last time I'd be welcome there. As I pulled into the driveway, my phone buzzed one final time. The unknown number again? See you tomorrow. Bring everything you have. And Samantha? Be careful who you trust. I deleted the message, straightened my shoulders, and walked inside to face my family. For now, I was still one of them. By this time tomorrow, I'd be the traitor who destroyed everything they held dear. But sometimes, I reminded myself, destruction is necessary for rebirth. 2 weeks after I sent that email, my world imploded. I was in my apartment when the news broke. Caleb's arrest plastered across every local news channel. The footage showed him being let out of Quinn Enterprises in handcuffs, his designer suit wrinkled, his face a mask of rage. My phone started ringing immediately. Vivienne. What did you do? Her voice cracked with fury. Tell me you didn't do this to our family. Viv, don't. Just don't. Mom's crying. Uncle Connor is... I've never seen him like this. How could you? The line went dead before I could respond. Within minutes, my social media exploded with notifications. Family members unfriending me, blocking me. Messages ranging from disappointed to threatening. A knock at my door made me jump. Through the peephole, I saw Sophia, looking nervous. You shouldn't be here, I said, letting her in. They'll figure out you helped me. They already did. She held up her phone, showing me an email. I've been fired, along with anyone they suspect might have known about the investigation. I'm so sorry. Don't be. I knew what I was getting into. She sat on my couch, running fingers through her hair. But Samantha, there's something else. Something about Caleb's arrest doesn't add up. My TV was still playing the news coverage. Uncle Connor stood at a podium outside the company building, his face grave. This betrayal, his voice boomed through my speakers, comes not just from federal authorities, but from within our own family. My niece Samantha has chosen to destroy everything we've built. She has fabricated evidence against her own cousin, manipulated data, and... I switched it off, hands shaking. He's lying. I didn't fabricate anything. I know, Sophia said quietly. But that's not what I mean. The transactions you found? They were backdated. Someone wanted you to find them. My doorbell rang again. This time it was Aunt Melina, Caleb's mother. When I opened the door, her hand cracked across my face before I could speak. You vindictive little snake, she hissed. My son is in jail because of you. Your son is in jail because he broke the law. I shot back, touching my stinging cheek. Or did you think those millions appeared by magic? You have no idea what you've done. Her voice dropped to a whisper. No idea what's really going on. But you will. When everything falls apart, remember this moment. Remember you caused it. After she left, Sophia helped me pack a bag. You can't stay here, she insisted. They know where you live and they're out for blood. I'm not running away. It's not running away, it's being smart. Besides, she smiled grimly, don't you have a meeting to get to? I looked at her sharply. How did you... The coffee shop messages. That was Abel Taylor. He's a lawyer I know, specializes in corporate whistleblower cases. He's been building a case against Quinn Enterprises for months. You just gave him the final pieces. My phone buzzed with a text from Vivienne. Uncle Connor is having an emergency board meeting. They're voting to freeze your shares in the company. Hope you're happy with yourself. I smiled, despite everything. They didn't know about the new company I'd quietly registered last month, or the clients I'd been courting. They thought they were cutting me off, but I was already 10 steps ahead. Tell Abel I'll meet him tomorrow, I told Sophia. Right now, I have another stop to make. The prison visiting area was cold and sterile. Caleb sat across from me, his eyes hollow. Come to gloat? He spat. Come to understand. Those transactions were backdated, Caleb. Someone set you up, and I think you know who. His face went pale. Get out. Who are you protecting? What are you afraid of? I said get out. He stood up so fast, his chair clattered backward. Guards move forward. You think you're so righteous, but you have no idea what you've started. When it all comes out, they dragged him away before he could finish, but his words echoed in my head all the way to my hotel room. As I checked in under a false name, my phone lit up with one last message from an unknown number. Smart move, getting out of your apartment. Tomorrow, 8 a.m. I'll show you how deep this really goes. Abel. I stared out the hotel window at the city lights, thinking about Caleb's face, Aunt Melina's words, Uncle Connor's lies. Someone had orchestrated this whole thing, using me as their unwitting pawn. But they'd underestimated me. They thought they'd destroyed me, but they'd only set me free. Carter's coffee shop buzzed with morning activity as I spotted a man in a crisp navy suit, sitting alone with 2 coffee cups in front of him. He stood as I approached, extending his hand. Abel Taylor, he said warmly, though I suppose you figured that out already. The mysterious texter himself. I sat down, accepting the coffee he pushed toward me. So why all the cloak and dagger routine? Because walls have ears, especially at Quinn Enterprises. He pulled out a tablet, sliding it across the table. Take a look at this. The screen showed a complex web of transactions, but these were different from the ones I'd found. These went back years, involving companies I'd never heard of. Your cousin Caleb? Abel leaned forward. He's just a fall guy. The real architect of this scheme is someone much higher up. Uncle Connor? Think bigger. He swiped to another document. Your uncle answers to people too. Powerful people who needed a legitimate business to wash their money through. My coffee turned bitter in my mouth. How long have you been investigating this? 2 years, but we could never get inside access until I happened across those files. I set my cup down hard. So Sophia working with me, that wasn't a coincidence? She came to us first, actually. Said she suspected something was wrong but needed help proving it. Abel's eyes softened. She risked everything to help you, Samantha. My phone buzzed. Aunt Melina's number flashed on the screen. Speaking of risks. Abel nodded at my phone. You should answer that. I did, bracing myself for more accusations. Instead, Melina's voice came through shaking. I need to see you, she whispered. Please. Not about Caleb, about something else. Something worse. I looked at Abel, who was already gathering his things. Go, he said. But be careful. Record everything. 20 minutes later, I sat across from Aunt Melina in a small park. She'd aged years and days, her perfectly maintained appearance now crumbling. They're going to kill him, she said without preamble. Caleb, they're going to make it look like suicide in his cell. Who is? The same people who own your uncle. The same people who... She choked back a sob. Who killed your father. The world tilted sideways. Dad died in a car accident. Is that what Connor told you? She laughed bitterly. Your father found out what was happening, just like you did. But he confronted them directly instead of going to the authorities. 3 days later, his brakes failed on that mountain road. My phone buzzed again. Sophia this time. Urgent. Office being raided. Connor destroying files. Need access to your old computer now. I have to go. I stood up, my mind racing. But Melina, I need you to tell Abel everything you just told me. Everything you know. Who's Abel? Someone who can help, like he's helping me. I showed her my phone screen, displaying the company registration documents. I'm not just taking them down, Melina. I'm building something new, something legitimate. When this is over, the family name won't mean corruption anymore. Her eyes widened as she read. This is why you've been meeting with our old clients. The ones who weren't involved in the scheme, yes. They're ready to jump ship as soon as everything breaks. I squeezed her hand. Help us. For Caleb. Back at my hotel, Sophia was waiting with her laptop. We need your login credentials. They haven't deactivated them yet. They're about to, I said, typing quickly. There, that should give you access to my cloud backup. Everything I found plus whatever was on my computer when they fired me. My phone lit up with a text from Vivian. We need to talk. Now. Go, Sophia urged. I've got this covered. Abel's getting a protection order for Caleb as we speak. I found Vivian at our childhood treehouse, of all places. She sat with her legs dangling over the edge, looking young and lost. Is it true? She asked as I climbed up. About Dad? How did you... Melina called me right after you left her. Said I deserved to know. She wiped her eyes. All these years I thought you were the troublemaker. The one who couldn't just play along. But you were right. About everything. I sat beside her, our shoulders touching like when we were kids. Help me fix this, Viv. Help me make it right. She pulled out her phone, showing me emails she'd secretly archived. Already am, sis. Already am. As the sun set behind the trees, my phone buzzed one last time. Abel. It's happening. Tomorrow everything breaks. Are you ready? I looked at my sister, thought of Melina, of Sophia, of all the pieces falling into place. Ready, I texted back. Let's finish this. The package arrived at my hotel room door just before dawn, a plain manila envelope with no return address. Inside, I found a single photograph. My father, sitting at his desk, time-stamped 3 days before his death. On the back, written in red ink, like father, like daughter, back off. My hands were still shaking when Abel called. Turn on the news, he said without greeting. Every channel showed the same scene. Federal agents swarming Quinn Enterprises, carrying out boxes of documents. Uncle Connor stood at the entrance, his face ashen, as reporters shouted questions. My phone exploded with notifications. Vivienne. Dad's old office. Now. Found something. I met her in the abandoned building where our father had run his consulting business. She was already there, kneeling by a loose floorboard. Look what I found, she said, pulling out a dusty metal box. Inside were USB drives, documents, and a letter addressed to me. He knew, I whispered, scanning the letter. He knew everything, Viv. The money laundering, the shell companies, all of it. He was building a case. Sam. She held up one of the drives. There's more. These recordings... Dad wasn't just gathering evidence. He was part of it initially. He was trying to make it right when they killed him. The door creaked behind us. We spun around to find Melina standing there, pale as a ghost. I've been following you, she admitted. After our talk yesterday, I remembered something. About the night your father died. She pulled out her phone, showing us a video. I never showed this to anyone, not even Connor. The shaky footage showed our father arguing with 2 men in suits outside the office building. The timestamp matched the photo I'd received that morning. I need names, I said. Melina shook her head. It's not safe. They already threatened Caleb in prison. If I tell you, they killed my father. I slammed my hand on the desk. They're using our family's company to launder money for who knows what. And now they're threatening me too. I got this morning. I showed her the photograph. Her face went white. Where did you get this? Same place you got your warning about Caleb, I'm guessing. My phone buzzed. Sophia. Emergency. Someone's deleted everything from the cloud. All our evidence gone. No, I smiled, holding up the USB drives. Not everything. Vivian's phone chimed next. She read the message and grabbed my arm. Uncle Connor's calling an emergency family meeting. Tonight. Everyone has to attend. It's a trap, Melina said immediately. They'll try to silence all of us at once. Or it's our chance. I countered. To expose everything. We have Dad's evidence, your video, the photo they sent me. And me, said a voice from the doorway. We all turned to see Abel standing there with Sophia. We've got a federal warrant and agent standing by. All we need is for Connor to incriminate himself. He won't, Melina said. He's too careful. Unless... Vivian's eyes lit up. Unless he thinks he's only talking to family. Sam, give me your phone. She typed out a message to Connor. You win. I'll back off. Just let me explain myself to everyone tonight. His response came immediately. Finally seeing reason. 8 p.m. The house. He'll be recording everything, Melina warned, looking for evidence he can use against us. Good, Abel smiled. So will we. That evening, I stood outside my childhood home wearing a wire under my blazer. Vivian squeezed my hand before we went in. Whatever happens, she whispered, I'm with you. The family sat around the massive dining table. Aunts, uncles, cousins, all except Caleb. Uncle Connor stood at the head looking triumphant. Samantha, he said warmly, ready to apologize to everyone? I stood up, feeling the weight of my father's letter in my pocket. Actually, Uncle Connor, I have a story to tell. About a man who discovered something terrible happening in his family's company. About how he tried to fix it and what happened to him because of that. His smile froze. Samantha, it's a story about my father, I continued, pulling out the photo I'd received that morning. And about the men who visited him 3 days before his death. The room went silent. In the distance, sirens began to wail. Perhaps, Abel's voice rang out as he stepped in from the hallway, federal agents filing in behind him. You'd like to tell us about those men, Mr. Quinn? I watched my uncle's face crumble as he realized what was happening. As the agents read him his rights, I felt Vivian's hand slip into mine again. The truth was finally coming out. But at what cost? The boardroom of my new company felt strange. Sleek, modern, and most importantly, clean. No hidden files, no secret accounts, just honest business. 3 weeks after Connor's arrest, I sat facing the former clients of Quinn Enterprises, laying out my vision. The transition will be seamless, I explained, sliding contracts across the polished table. Same service quality, but with complete transparency. And the legal issues? Margaret, our biggest potential client, raised an eyebrow. We can't risk association with... Everything's been vetted by federal authorities. Abel cut in smoothly from beside me. Ms. Quinn's new venture is completely separate from the previous entity. My phone buzzed. A message from the prison. Caleb wanted to see me. Again. Excuse me, I said, standing. My colleague Sophia will walk you through the details. In the hallway, Vivian waited with coffee. Another visit request? Third this week. I took the cup gratefully. He keeps insisting there's more to the story. Maybe there is. She pulled out her tablet. Look what I found in Dad's old files. The document showed a series of transactions predating even Connor's involvement. Names I recognized. Powerful people in politics, finance, technology. This goes higher than we thought, Vivian whispered. Way higher. My phone rang. Melina, turn on the news now. We rushed to my office just in time to see Connor being led into court. The headline below read, Quinn Enterprises CEO claims conspiracy, names major players. He's talking, Vivian breathed. Because they want him to, came Abel's voice. He stood in the doorway, face grim. Think about it. Why now? Why is he suddenly naming names? Because they're the wrong names, I realized. He's creating a false trail. My office phone lit up. Margaret and the other clients were leaving. I rushed back to the boardroom, but it was too late. We can't take the risk, Margaret said apologetically. Not with these new allegations flying around. I watched months of planning crumble as they filed out. Back in my office, I slumped into my chair. We need to talk to Caleb, Vivian insisted. If Connor's creating a false trail, maybe Caleb knows the real one. 2 hours later, I sat across from my cousin in the prison visiting room. He looked better than last time. Clearer, more focused. They killed Dad, didn't they? He asked without preamble. Yes. Because he found out about the political connections? I leaned forward. What political connections? The ones Connor's not naming. Caleb glanced around nervously. Look, I was just the numbers guy. I moved money where they told me to. But sometimes, late at night, I'd see things. Names. Real names. We need those names, Caleb. You don't understand, he hissed. These people, they own judges, cops, entire departments. Why do you think Connor's still alive? He's playing his part. My phone buzzed. Sophia. Emergency. Office broken into, all files copied. They're moving fast. Abel said when I showed him the message back at the office. They know we're close. Then we move faster. I pulled out my father's letter. Dad mentioned a backup plan, something he called Protocol 7. Melina, does that mean anything to you? She'd been quiet since arriving, but now she straightened. The 7th floor. Your father's old building had a hidden room there, behind the maintenance closet. That's where we're going, I announced. Tonight. It's too dangerous, Abel protested. They're watching us. Then we give them something else to watch. I turned to Sophia. Remember that press release we prepared? About the new company? Send it now. But we just lost all our clients, she said. Exactly. While they're celebrating our failure, we'll be finding the truth. That night, as business news reported the collapse of my new venture, 4 of us crept into my father's old building. The 7th floor was dark, dusty with disuse. Here, Melina whispered, pushing aside a shelf in the maintenance closet. Behind it, a small door. Inside, we found a single laptop, ancient but carefully preserved. As it booted up, a video file started playing automatically. My father's face filled the screen. Samantha, if you're watching this, you've figured it out. Everything you need is here. The real names, the real conspiracy. But baby girl, be careful. What you're about to learn? The screen suddenly went black. Behind us, a voice spoke. That's quite far enough. We spun around to face the darkness, and I finally understood why Uncle Connor had been so afraid. Senator Marcus stepped out of the shadows, flanked by 2 men in dark suits. The same men from Melina's video of my father. I was wondering when you'd find this place, he said, his politician's smile never reaching his eyes. Your father was equally persistent. Must run in the family. You killed him, I said, my voice shaking with rage. Now. Accidents happen, just like they might happen to your cousin Caleb if this goes any further. He gestured to the laptop. Hand it over. It's already too late, Abel spoke up. Everything's been uploaded to secure servers. The senator laughed. Mr. Taylor, please. We both know that's not true. You're bluffing, just like you bluffed about having evidence against Connor. My blood ran cold. How did he know about that? You've been watching us, Vivienne realized. All along. Of course we have. Did you think Connor's confession was spontaneous? We've been directing this little play from the beginning. He stepped closer. Though I must admit, you've been more resourceful than we anticipated. Why are you telling us this? Melina demanded. Because, Mrs. Quinn, I'm offering you all a choice. The same choice we offered Connor. He spread his hands. Work with us, and your family's wealth is restored. Fight us, and, well... He glanced meaningfully at the laptop. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Sophia's name flashed on the screen. Don't answer that, one of the suits warned, reaching for his weapon. But the senator raised his hand. Let her. This should be interesting. I put the phone on speaker. Sophia's voice came through, clear and confident. It's done. All of it. Every major news outlet has the files. What files? The senator's smile faltered. The ones my father didn't keep here, I said, feeling a surge of triumph. The ones he mailed to his old law school friend the day before he died. The friend who kept them safe until I was ready. You're bluffing, he snarled, but uncertainty crept into his voice. Check your phone, Senator. Abel smiled. Breaking news should be hitting right about now. The senator's phone chimed. As he read, his face drained of color. Impossible, he whispered. My father knew you'd find this place. I continued, strength flowing into my voice. Knew you'd think you had won. That's why he made sure the real evidence was somewhere else. Somewhere even I didn't know about until Sophia decoded the message hidden in his letter. The suited men looked uncertainly at their boss, whose phone was now buzzing continuously. Sir, one said urgently, we need to go. Now. This isn't over. The senator hissed, backing toward the door. Actually, it is, came a new voice. Federal agents poured into the room, led by a woman I recognized from the news, the head of the FBI's white-collar crime division. "Senator Marcus," she said formally, "you're under arrest for conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and accessory to murder." As they led him away, he turned back to me. "You have no idea what you've done. The people I work for will be joining you shortly." The FBI agent cut in. "Ms. Quinn's father left quite a detailed trail. We've been building this case for years, waiting for the final pieces." Later, in my office, we watched the dominoes fall on every news channel. Politicians, business leaders, judges, all exposed by my father's hidden files. "He knew," Vivian said softly. "He knew they'd kill him, so he made sure the truth would come out eventually." My phone buzzed. "Caleb. Just saw the news. Guards say I'll be released tomorrow. The evidence shows I was coerced. Sam, thank you." Another message followed from Margaret. "Meeting tomorrow? Think we need to revisit those contracts." "So what now?" Melina asked, looking around at our small group of conspirators. "Now," I said, pulling out fresh contracts. "We build something honest. Something worthy of my father's sacrifice." "And the family?" Vivian asked quietly. I looked at Melina, thought of Caleb, even Uncle Connor. "We heal. Together." Abel raised an eyebrow. "Even Connor?" "He made his choices," I acknowledged. "But he also protected us in his own way. Maybe that counts for something." My phone buzzed one last time. An email from an unknown address. Inside was a video file. My father recorded the day he died. "I knew you'd finish what I started." His voice filled the room. "Remember, Samantha, true legacy isn't about money or power. It's about doing what's right, no matter the cost." I looked around at my unlikely team. My sister, my aunt, my friends. Together, we'd torn down a corrupt empire. Now came the harder part. Building a better one. "He's gone." Vivian burst into my office, face flushed with panic. "Caleb's disappeared with all the new business proposals." I stared at her, my coffee cup frozen halfway to my mouth. "What?" "The thumb drive with all our client presentations, financial projections, everything. Gone. Along with him." My phone rang. Sophia. "Sam, you need to see this. Caleb just emailed all our potential clients, claiming we stole his intellectual property." 3 months of careful planning, of rebuilding trust, threatened to unravel in minutes. I grabbed my keys. "Where are you going?" Vivian called after me. "To stop history from repeating itself." I found Caleb exactly where I expected, our grandfather's old lake house. His car was parked haphazardly in the gravel driveway. "I wondered how long it would take you to figure it out," he said as I walked onto the deck. He sat in our grandfather's rocking chair, laptop open on his knees. "Why, Caleb?" "Because it should have been mine." He slammed the laptop shut. "I was the one who stayed loyal. I was the one who went to jail. And now you're giving away our clients to your new company?" "I'm not giving them away. I'm offering them a legitimate business partnership." "With you in charge?" He laughed bitterly. "Always perfect, Samantha, Dad's favorite, the moral compass of the family." "Is that what this is about? Dad? He trusted you with everything. His plans, his evidence, his legacy. What did I get? A prison sentence and a ruined reputation." "You got a second chance," I said quietly, "which is more than Dad ever got." His face crumpled. They would have killed him anyway, even if I had warned him. The words hung in the air between us. My hands started shaking. "You knew?" My voice came out as a whisper. "You knew they were going to kill him?" "I overheard Connor talking to the senator. I thought they were just trying to scare him off." Tears streamed down his face. By the time I realized what they really meant, it was too late. My phone buzzed. "Abel. Damage control in progress, but we need those proposals back now." "Give me the drive, Caleb." "Or what? You'll send me back to prison?" He stood up, walking to the deck railing. Maybe I should just upload everything online. Let everyone see your precious plans. Those plans include you. He turned. What? I pulled out a document from my bag. Read it. Page 3, partnership structure. His hands trembled as he read. 20% ownership? Vice President of Operations? Your family, Caleb. Despite everything. Dad believed in second chances. That's why he left all that evidence. Not just to expose the truth, but to give us a chance to make things right. I don't deserve it. No, I agreed. But you can earn it. Starting now. He pulled the thumb drive from his pocket, staring at it. I already sent those emails. My phone buzzed again. Sophia. Crisis averted. Clients all received our explanation. Most found Caleb's claims suspicious given his history. We can fix this, I said, holding out my hand. Together. The drive felt heavy in my palm when he finally handed it over. Behind us, gravel crunched as another car pulled up. Sorry I'm late, Vivian called out, walking onto the deck. Traffic was terrible. She looked between us. Everything okay? Getting there, I said. Caleb was just about to sign his partnership agreement. Partnership? She raised an eyebrow. People change, Viv. I pulled out a pen. Sometimes they just need a reason to. Later that evening, as we sat in my office reviewing the damage control strategy, Abel shook his head. You're either brilliant or crazy, he said. Possibly both. Giving him a stake in the company after what he did? She's being strategic, Vivian defended. Keep your friends close. No, I interrupted. I'm being family. The right way this time. My phone lit up with a message from Melina. Heard about Caleb. Thank you for believing in him. Your father would be proud. I looked through my office window at Caleb, sitting with Sophia, earnestly explaining something to our clients via video conference. His shoulders were straight, his voice clear and confident. Second chances, I murmured, thinking of Dad's last video. That's what legacy really means. Abel gathered his things to leave. Big presentation tomorrow. You ready to show the world what honest business looks like? I smiled, watching my cousin, my sister, our team working together. More than ready, I said. We're just getting started. The conference room buzzed with anticipation as I stood at the podium, facing the largest gathering of business leaders our city had seen in decades. Camera flashes popped from the media section. Today, I began, we're not just launching a company. We're redefining what family business means. In the front row, Vivian gave me an encouraging nod. Beside her, Caleb sat straight-backed in his new suit, pride replacing his former shame. Melina dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. Quinn Enterprises was built on secrets, I continued, but Quinn Solutions is built on transparency. I clicked to the first slide, showing our revolutionary business model. Every transaction traceable, every deal ethical, every partnership meaningful. My phone vibrated in my pocket. A message from the prison. I ignored it. Uncle Connor could wait. Some of you knew my father, I said, my voice steady. He believed business could be both profitable and principled. He died defending that belief. Today, we prove him right. The presentation flowed perfectly. When I opened the floor for questions, Margaret stood first. As someone who worked with both Quinn Enterprises, she said, I have to ask, how can we be sure history won't repeat itself? Because of this, Caleb stood up, unscripted. May I, Sam? I gestured him forward, heart pounding. I was part of the old system, he said, his voice carrying clearly. I chose wrong. I hurt people. But standing here today, helping build something honest. He pulled out a folder. These are documents showing every illegal transaction I ever handled. I'm submitting them to the FBI voluntarily. Gasps rippled through the room. This wasn't part of our plan. My cousin offered me redemption, Caleb continued. Now I'm earning it. Complete transparency, starting with me. Cameras flashed frantically. In the back, Abel gave me a thumbs up. The questions flew fast after that. With each answer, I could feel the room's skepticism melting into genuine interest. By the time I announced our first major contract, a government infrastructure project with unprecedented public oversight, the energy was electric. One last thing, I said as the presentation wound down. Every employee in our company, from executives to entry level, will have profit sharing and voting rights on major decisions. Because true legacy isn't built by individuals. It's built by family, both blood and chosen. The applause was deafening. As reporters swarmed forward, my phone buzzed again. This time, I checked it. Ready to talk? Connor's message read, I have information about the senator's remaining allies. What do you think? I showed the message to Abel. Could be useful, he mused. But be careful. Actually, Vivian cut in, let me handle Connor. You've got something more important to do. She nodded toward the door, where Sophia stood with an elderly man I'd never seen before. Ms. Quinn, he said as I approached. I'm Robert Marshall, your father's law professor, the one he trusted with those files. My throat tightened. Thank you for keeping them safe, for waiting until the right time. Don't thank me, he smiled. Thank him. He knew exactly who you'd become. He handed me an envelope. He left this too, said to give it to you when you'd finished what he started. Inside was a single photo. Dad and me at my college graduation, both of us laughing. On the back, he'd written, the best legacy is the truth we leave behind. I'm so proud of you, baby girl. Sam, Caleb called out urgently. The governor's office is on the line. They want to discuss statewide infrastructure contracts. I tucked the photo into my jacket pocket, right over my heart. Professor Marshall, I said, would you like to see what your former student's legacy has become? He followed me back to where my team waited. Vivian coordinating with PR, Caleb on the phone with government officials, Sophia preparing contract documents, Abel reviewing legal details, Melina handling client relations. Your father once told me his biggest dream was to build something that would outlast him. Marshall said quietly. Something true. I watched my family, both blood and chosen, working together to create something honest, something real. He did, I replied. He built us. My phone buzzed one final time. A news alert. Quinn Solutions sets new standard for corporate transparency. I smiled, thinking of Dad's words in that last video. True legacy isn't about money or power. It's about doing what's right, no matter the cost. We'd paid the cost. Now we were claiming the legacy. The right way, the true way, together.
Our house sits in the suburbs of Massachusetts. The white paint on the exterior walls of our 20-year-old single-family home is peeling in places, but this house is my precious sanctuary. In the small flower bed by the entrance, the marigolds that Amy and I planted in spring are still blooming vigorously. One afternoon in late August, I was poring over the household accounts as usual, basking in the sunlight streaming through the kitchen window. I'm Melissa Wilson, 35 years old, working part-time at a local insurance agency. My meticulous nature hasn't changed since my student days, and I still take particular care with household management. In my Excel spreadsheet budget, I record even the prices of supermarket sale items in detail. Every Thursday, I make it a habit to check the flyers and shop around at local supermarkets for deals. Perhaps this is my own way of expressing love for my family. Mom, is the snack ready? The voice from the living room brings an involuntary smile to my face. My daughter Amy turned 10 this year and is in 5th grade at the local elementary school. Her bright and honest personality always gives me strength. She's particularly good at math and wants to be an architect when she grows up. On her days off, She loves playing with building blocks, making house models. Just the other day, she created a suburban single-family home like ours with colorful blocks and happily explained, "You can walk the dog here, see? Just wait a little longer, I'll make it right away," I answered while doing a final check of this month's household income and expenses. The electricity bill is a bit high due to this unusual heat. I started working part-time 3 days a week 3 years ago to cover Amy's cram school fees. I work from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., somehow managing to handle Amy's drop-offs and pickups. Still, we live on a tight budget. James, my husband, has been working as a construction site supervisor for 15 years, and recently his weekend shifts have increased, leading to higher income. But I feel sad that his time with family is decreasing accordingly. The increase in weekend work began around the beginning of this year, I think. What started as once or twice a month has now become the norm 3 or 4 times monthly. Every time I see him checking work-related emails on his smartphone during dinner, my heart aches a little. Unlike my meticulous nature, James has always been more easygoing, and he's a very indulgent father to Amy. Recently, he's started buying new watches and clothes, saying, "It's for work socializing," but true, his external interactions must have increased since becoming a site supervisor, but when I saw this month's credit card bill, I couldn't believe my eyes. Is Dad coming home late again? Amy, having finished her homework, appeared in the kitchen with sweat on her forehead. Yes, he's working overtime again. But we can spend Sunday together as a family. Yay! I want to go to the park with Dad. Looking at Amy's innocent smile makes my chest tighten. Actually, I have something troubling me about Sunday's plans. I was planning to invite my sister Rachel for dinner, but lately, she's been ignoring my messages more often. Since her divorce 2 years ago, citing differences in values, she's been living alone in an apartment about 15 minutes by car from our parents' house, and we don't see each other as frequently as before. Rachel works as a supermarket cashier, starting her new life. Recently, our phone calls have decreased, and I feel a growing distance between us. She's stopped showing up at family gatherings at our parents' house, and her social media updates have become irregular. Her last post was 2 months ago. While she had some unstable periods after her divorce, lately something seems different. Our phone conversations have decreased, and even when we do meet, she seems distracted, which worries me. While serving Amy cookies and apple juice, I contemplate tomorrow's dinner menu. Should I make lasagna, Rachel's favorite, or go with an easier pot roast? Through the kitchen window, I can see the trees in the yard swaying, looking a bit tired from the late summer heat. The maple leaves are just beginning to show hints of autumn. Closing the household account book, I can't help but sigh. True, my husband's income has increased, but we still have years of mortgage payments ahead, and Amy's education expenses will only grow. Thinking about college, we need to start preparing now. But I have to stay strong to protect this family's happiness. Hoping Rachel will come on Sunday, I turn on the oven. As dusk approaches, watching the shadows in the yard gradually lengthen through the window, I'm overcome with an inexplicable sadness. Saturday afternoon, I was folding laundry while thinking about tomorrow's family time. Rachel still hasn't responded to my messages. Despite the persistent late summer heat, the living room air conditioner remains broken. Only the fan futilely stirs the warm air. While folding shirts, I remember the price tag on James's new clothes. The white shirt he bought last week cost about 20 hours of my wages. Mom! Look at this. Turning to Amy's voice, I saw her holding a tablet that had been left in James's car. She must have gotten it from my husband's car while he was away on weekend work. He left early this morning saying he had to go to the site and hasn't returned since. Lately, Saturdays are like this too. What is it? It's Dad's car navigation history. He's been going to lots of places I don't know. My heart skipped a beat. The intuition that something had been wrong for the past few months suddenly made a loud noise in my mind. But I had to maintain composure in front of Amy. Taking a deep breath, I sat down next to my daughter. The moment I peered at the screen, unfamiliar addresses jumped out at me. And the times. My fingertips trembled slightly. Look at this address. He's going there at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. Does Dad work at these hours? Desperately suppressing my agitation, I answered, yes, it might be work-related. I hate lying, but I don't want to worry Amy right now. Just looking at her innocent eyes makes my chest tighten. I try to check the history on the tablet as naturally as possible. The past 3 months' records show more than 15 late-night movements. All between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. on weekdays. During hours when I should be sleeping. And the destinations, in a low-income area of the suburbs. Definitely not somewhere a construction site supervisor would go for work. I noticed Amy heading to the kitchen with a plate smeared with blueberry jam. Amy, it's snack time. Could you go to the kitchen and get the pudding from the fridge? It's the special pudding Dad bought today. After sending my daughter to the kitchen, I quickly took photos of the addresses with my smartphone. My hands were shaking slightly. The numbers on the screen seemed to dance before my eyes. All the vague uneasiness I'd been feeling suddenly took shape. My husband's recent changes. New brand name clothes, unfamiliar expensive watches. Last month, he bought an expensive watch, saying it was for greeting business partners. Then the perfume he started using 2 months ago. He'd never used anything like that before. He never lets his phone out of his sight and seems careful not to show me the screen. When message notifications sound, he immediately checks and deletes them. When he comes home, he immediately takes a shower. Some days, I find unfamiliar perfume scents on the laundry. I can hear Amy's cheerful singing from the kitchen. The usual, twinkle, twinkle, little star. Her innocent voice makes my chest tighten. She still doesn't know anything. I want her to stay innocent. With trembling hands, I open the household account book and review the finances again. Indeed, my husband's income has increased. But the overtime pay amounts don't match the actual deposits. Unexplained cash withdrawals have also become more frequent. Last month, he withdrew $3,000 in cash on payday. When I asked, he just vaguely said it was necessary expenses. I sigh. But what worries me more is my sister Rachel. The weekly phone calls we used to have silently ceased. She started avoiding family gatherings at our parents' house, and her social media posts have drastically decreased. The last time we met, she seemed to avoid looking me in the eye. After her divorce, We used to talk and encourage each other often. The living room clock shows 3 p.m. Amy has gone out to play with friends. The sunlight is still strong, but the shadows are gradually lengthening. I gathered my courage and entered my husband's study. I normally don't touch his personal belongings. But today is different. I need to clear up this unsettling feeling. Opening the drawer, I find unfamiliar bundles of receipts. Luxury restaurants, jewelry shops. Last Friday, dinner at 10 p.m. A course menu for two. I was at home eating frozen pizza with Amy. Then, a separate mobile phone bill. Numerous call records from unknown numbers. In the notebook, mysterious addresses are scribbled. The same places as in the car navigation history. From the back of the drawer, a small box emerged. Inside, a small pendant. With last month's receipt attached. Not my birthday or our wedding anniversary. Who is this for? Night. After putting Amy to bed, I sat in my bedroom in the dark, quietly crying. Insects chirp outside. The air conditioner-less house is humid, and my nightgown sticks to my skin. In just a few hours since the sudden discovery, my world has completely changed. But I can't let this be the end. Thinking of Amy's future, I need to uncover the truth. The college savings might be dwindling due to my husband's wasteful spending. How long can we continue this life? What was our 15-year marriage all about? The bedside alarm clock shows midnight. On my phone screen, Rachel's unread messages remain ignored. I've made my decision. I'll begin my own investigation to uncover the truth. To protect Amy's smile, and to protect my own life. Opening the dresser drawer, I take out my savings passbook. An account I've kept secret from my husband, containing my part-time wages. I might need money for the investigation. The business card from that detective agency from when we replaced our wedding rings 10 years ago should still be here somewhere. Tomorrow. Sunday's family time might be the last. But before that, I need solid evidence. I pick up the tablet again to check the history. The suburban apartment. There, my husband's unknown side exists. And perhaps, Rachel too. Monday morning, I left home early. I told Amy, Mom has an early morning meeting at work. In truth, I was heading to the detective agency I had used 10 years ago when we got new wedding rings. In my hand, 3 months' worth of cram school fees. I'm sorry, Amy, but right now, knowing the truth is more important. The detective agency was on the 5th floor of an office building slightly removed from the busy downtown area. When I opened the door, the middle-aged female receptionist greeted me kindly, just like 10 years ago. While waiting in the reception room, the detective I remembered appeared. Though he had more gray hair now, his sharp gaze hadn't changed. Mrs. Wilson, it's been a while. At those words, I felt tears welling up. This time, it's about my husband. With trembling hands, I showed him the photos of the tablet history. The late-night movement records, suspicious receipts. And the unnatural relationship with my sister Rachel. As I spoke, my voice seemed to echo from far away. I'd like to request basic surveillance and evidence collection. This is. When I held out an envelope containing cash, the detective quietly shook his head. We can do installment payments. Let's start with $3,000. We can discuss the rest after seeing the results. I felt slightly relieved at those words. I listened to the specific investigation plan. GPS installation, behavior monitoring through surveillance, security camera footage collection. Modern investigation techniques have apparently evolved significantly compared to 10 years ago. We should be able to grasp the general situation in about a week. I nodded slightly at the detective's words. For the next week, while pretending to maintain my usual life, I was internally restless. James, my husband, continues his late-night, overtime work as usual. He keeps his phone close at all times, and his shower sounds are suspiciously long. Still no contact from Rachel. Then came Monday. The meeting place was a cafe near the station. At a window seat, I nervously examined the evidence. The first photo. James entering a luxury restaurant. The next photo. Him leaving arm in arm with Rachel. My hands shake. They were meeting regularly at this apartment. The detective handed me photos showing the scene at the suburban apartment. Rachel opening the door with a spare key. James sneaking in at night. The two of them entering with shopping bags. We found evidence of their lifestyle too. Photos of them in casual wear. Cooking in the kitchen. Cuddling on the balcony. All taken during hours I didn't know about. That afternoon, I left the insurance agency early and thoroughly checked bank statements at home. Every suspicious withdrawal has a corresponding photo. Shopping at luxury brands, restaurant meals, what appears to be apartment rent. Nervously, I called my husband's company. I asked anonymously to a woman who identified herself as being from the personnel department. I'd like to confirm the night shift schedule for an employee named Wilson. I'm sorry, but our company doesn't conduct any nighttime site work at all. After hanging up, exhaustion overwhelmed me. Outside, an autumn-tinged wind was blowing. The next investigation revealed even more shocking facts. Waiting for me at the detective agency was security camera footage capturing James leaving the company's vault room. At night, when no one should be there. This is evidence of embezzlement. The detective's voice resonates heavily. It seems he was embezzling part of the construction costs by falsifying monthly accounting reports. A mountain of documents spread across the desk. Fraudulently manipulated accounting records, forged receipts. And the amount. An unbelievable figure. The total is approximately $300,000. Even in just the past 6 months, about $100,000 has been misappropriated. I felt dizzy. On the desk were photos of Rachel carrying luxury brand bags. James stepping out of a new Mercedes. The two of them viewing luxury homes together. The apartment was just a meeting place. I could only nod at the detective's words. Ma'am, there's one more important piece of information. The documents handed to me included a contract for a new condominium. In James and Rachel's names, with the down payment already paid. Move-in date next month. It seems they were planning to start a new life together. That wasn't all. The detective added one final detail. We've discovered something else. Rachel, in her previous divorce as well. I gasped. My sister's divorce. Indeed, back then too, she suddenly announced the split with just the vague reason of differences in values. Even our parents don't know the detailed circumstances. Could it be, just like this time? Just thinking about it makes my chest tighten. There were similar financial troubles at her ex-husband's company. However, it was resolved through a settlement, so it never came to light. It appears she was involved in embezzlement using the same method this time as well. On my way home, autumn twilight enveloped the town. The trees along the railroad tracks were beginning to show signs of autumn. Usually at this time of year, we'd be planning a family trip to view the fall colors. But this year, everything has changed. On my smartphone screen, Amy's photo appears. Taken at the recent sports day. The image of her running hand in hand with her father, James. That smile might never be seen again. Looking at the photo, I found myself crying before I knew it. Arriving home, flyers had accumulated in the mailbox. Among them, Amy's cram school bill. For next month. Maybe I won't need to pay it anymore. Because from now on, I'll be living alone. No, it's too early to think about that. First, I need to face the facts in front of me. In the living room, Amy was working on her math workbook. Her dream is to become an architect. To protect that dream, I must be strong. Tomorrow, when I confront my husband and sister, thinking of this child's future will surely give me courage. Standing in the kitchen, I was planning tomorrow's arrangements. The evidence photos, company records, bank statements. All prepared in an envelope. The confrontation will be in this house's living room. I've arranged for Amy to stay at a friend's house. While preparing dinner, my sister Rachel's words come back to me. "You're too perfect," she used to say often. I'm not perfect. I just wanted to protect my family. But to be betrayed by that very family. While chopping onions, I quietly shed tears. After Amy fell asleep, I check all the evidence again. With each photo, I could hear the sound of my trust in my husband crumbling. 15 years of marriage. Before I knew it, it had become so fragile. By my pillow, the alarm clock shows midnight again. Tomorrow draws closer with each passing moment. Outside, the curtains sway in the night breeze. Their shadows cast lonely patterns on the wall, like omens of the new life about to begin. Sunday evening, I felt my hands trembling as I put tea leaves in the teapot. Amy had gone to stay at her friend's house 3 hours ago. Her words, "See you tomorrow, Mom," still echo in my ears. The living room clock points to 7 p.m. 1 hour until the appointed time. I check the envelope containing the evidence one more time. Photos, bank statements, company records. All arranged in order. I need to talk tonight. I've called Rachel too, I told my husband on the phone. There was a moment of silence, but he quickly replied, "Understood." To my sister, I sent a message, "Come to our house at 8 p.m. There's something important to discuss." The fan quietly oscillates. The air conditioner is still unrepaired. I thought I was saving on repair costs. Just remembering makes me feel bitter. The doorbell rang at 7:45 p.m. Rachel arrived first. "Sis, what's wrong?" There was a slight tremor in her voice. I silently led her to the living room. 5 minutes later, James came home too. "Melissa, what's this about?" His voice was normal, but his expression when he saw Rachel. It told everything. "Sit down." I urged them both to sit and reached for the envelope on the table. "What's this?" My husband's voice rose slightly. "The first photo. The two of them arm in arm at the luxury restaurant." Silently, I bring out the next photo. Rachel opening the door to the apartment. James sneaking in at night. The new condominium contract. "This is..." James's words trail off. Rachel covered her face with both hands. "Explain." My voice was surprisingly calm. A long silence. Only the fan sound echoes in the room. I was embezzling company money. After meeting Rachel. My husband's voice gradually grows smaller. "When I'm with her, everything seems to shine." While we were cutting back on our living expenses. While we were reducing Amy's cram school fees. Finally, my voice begins to shake. "Sis, I'm sorry. But James and I..." "Be quiet." I shouted involuntarily. "While reducing savings for Amy's future, you two were living in luxury." "Melissa, calm down." James reached out his hand. I violently brushed it away. "Don't touch me." Tears overflow. 15 years. For 15 years, I've been. For this family. For Amy. And yet, you. I have no excuses." James remained looking down. "I don't want to hear excuses. Embezzling company money, secret meetings with my sister. What kind of person are you?" Rachel started crying. "Sis, I'm truly sorry. You too. Your divorce 2 years ago was the same thing, wasn't it? There was money involved with your previous husband's company too." My sister's face turned pale. "How did you?" "The detective found everything. Using Amy's cram school fees." At those words, both of them gasped. "Mom was worried about you. Whether you'd recover after the divorce. But you were just hunting for your next prey." My husband. Outside, it had grown completely dark. The fan's breeze rustles the evidence photos. "I'm calling the company tomorrow. I'll tell them everything. No settlement this time." "Wait, Melissa." "Somehow." "Somehow what?" "After destroying Amy's dreams, what more do you want?" My voice starts shaking again. "I'll pay it back. The full amount." Rachel speaks up. "How? With your salary? Or by deceiving someone else?" The clock hands pointed to 11 p.m. This painful confrontation had been going on for 4 hours already. "Get out." I stood up. "Both of you, get out right now. And don't call me sister anymore. You're not my sister." After they left, only the mountain of evidence remained in the living room. Outside, insects were chirping. The clock was about to strike midnight. Near dawn, I called my parents. "Mom. I need to talk." Through the receiver, I hear my mother's sleepy voice. "But I can't wait any longer. I have to tell the truth." Can Amy and I stay at your place for a while?" After hanging up, the eastern sky was gradually brightening. A new morning is coming. But nothing will ever be the same. While putting away the documents, I strengthened my resolve. Filing the report today. Contacting the lawyer. And the company disclosure. It might be a long battle. But for Amy's future, I can't run away. Since that dawn, our lives began moving in a big way. After calling my parents, I immediately contacted a lawyer, and that same day filed the report with the company. Amy and I moved in with my parents, and days of divorce mediation and trials began. Initially, the company wanted to resolve things internally, but I refused. Just hearing the word settlement made me nauseous, remembering Rachel's previous incident. This time, everything would come to light. I believed that was the way to take responsibility for everyone who had been betrayed. The first 2 months were truly difficult. At night, I could barely hold back my own tears while holding Amy as she cried. But with my parents' support, I gradually began to look forward. Mother cooked our favorite dishes every day, and Father silently supported my decisions. "Melissa, why don't you continue with the insurance work?" One day, Mother suggested this. Indeed, even though it was part-time, 3 years of experience wasn't wasted. Unexpectedly, I received an offer from a major insurance company where I had sent my resume. And now, 6 months later, spring sunlight streams through the window, brightening the living room of our new apartment. I found this place on the opposite side of town. It's close to Amy's school, with affordable rent. Most importantly, it's a place where we could start a new life without anyone knowing us. "Mom, breakfast was super delicious today." Before heading to school, Amy hugged me saying this. The recipes I learned from Mother during our stay at their house are now proving useful in this way. My life has changed significantly too. The full-time job at the insurance company pays better than before, and more importantly, has good benefits. I don't have to worry about Amy's education expenses anymore. Sometimes I see James's case in the newspapers. Reported as a $300,000 embezzlement case, he was immediately fired from the company. Last week, his prison sentence was confirmed. I hear he can barely manage the compensation payments and is accumulating debts from relatives. Abandoned by former colleagues, he's completely lost his credibility in the community. Rachel went even further away. She's cut ties with our parents too, and the last I heard, she moved to the West Coast. Of course, she quit the supermarket. Her social media accounts were flooded with criticism until she deleted everything, or so I hear. But that's no longer my concern. Now I just want to focus on our future. "Good morning, ma'am." The elderly couple from downstairs greet me as they return from their morning walk. The people in this area have warmly accepted us as a single-mother family. The other day, they even brought a homemade cake for Amy's birthday. In the evening, when I return from work, Amy is waiting for me, having finished her homework. Her grades have improved recently, especially in math where she's among the top in her grade. Her dream of becoming an architect has become more concrete than before. "Mom, look. The house design I drew in art class today. The hand-drawn plans include detailed dimensions." Next to it was written in large letters, "For my mom." Stepping out onto the balcony in the twilight, the spring breeze gently caresses my cheeks. The new buds on the street trees glisten in the sunlight. Amy, it's okay now. We still have a wonderful future ahead of us, I whispered while stroking my daughter's hair. Yes, Mom. I'm going to become an architect and build you a wonderful house. I promise. The determination in her eyes had completely erased the shadows of past anxiety and sadness. In the small flower pot on the balcony railing, the marigold seedling that Amy grew and brought back from school reaches straight up toward the sky. Our new life, too, will surely bloom powerfully and beautifully like this marigold. The painful days now seem like a distant past. From now on, we'll only look forward. Along with Amy's dreams, my life too is about to begin anew. Morning mist hung heavy over Wilmette, Chicago's upscale residential neighborhood. At 5 a.m., before sunrise, Melissa Wilson quietly slipped out of bed. 3 days a week, she needed to leave at this hour for early morning experiments. Balancing her responsibilities as a researcher and a mother had been her proud daily routine. Before leaving the bedroom, she glanced at her husband Thomas. He'd been coming home late recently, and seemed more tired than usual, breathing deeply in his sleep. His new designer pajamas peeked slightly from under the blanket. Last month he'd bought a new Rolex, and spent weekends shopping at Nordstrom. Since his promotion at Smart Tech, his spending habits had noticeably changed. Walking down the hallway, she peeked into her 8-year-old daughter Emma's room. She couldn't help but smile at her angel-like sleeping face. On the bedside table lay her report card from school yesterday. All excellent grades, with a teacher's comment noting her as a model student. 1 year after passing the rigorous entrance exam for Francis W. Parker School, Emma was living up to all expectations. While preparing breakfast in the kitchen, Melissa reflected on last night's events. Thomas's reaction to Emma's report card had seemed distant. Though he said, as expected of our genius, his eyes never left his smartphone. Before, he would have hugged Emma in celebration. She efficiently prepared breakfast at the marble kitchen counter. Making sandwiches with organic vegetables and turkey from Whole Foods Market, she added some fruit on the side. The whiteboard on the refrigerator was filled with this week's schedule: Emma's piano lessons, PTA meetings, Sunday Mass at Fourth Presbyterian Church, and in red ink, anniversary dinner with Thomas. However, Thomas had announced last night that he had an important business dinner with clients. Melissa quickly made the sandwiches and packed them in thermal containers. Emma's portion was slightly larger than usual. She had choir practice after school today. If the experiments finished on schedule, she should be able to pick up her daughter afterward. Last week, work had run long and she'd kept Emma waiting. This week, she was determined to be on time. While putting on her leather shoes in the entryway, her eyes caught the family photo on the wall. It was taken 2 Christmas seasons ago, with the magnificent Miles illuminations as a backdrop. Emma laughing in Thomas's arms. All 3 of them looking genuinely happy. That night, they'd celebrated at Gibson's Bar and Steakhouse, talking about their future as a family. Emma's eyes had sparkled as she declared, I want to be a doctor like Mom and help people. But now, that photo felt like a distant memory. Thomas's newly acquired BMW. The sudden increase in late-night engagements. The scent of new cologne. His slightly panicked response to smartphone notifications. Each small change had been building into a sense of unease. As she boarded the first metro train of the day, Melissa let out a deep sigh. She had earned her PhD from the University of Chicago and now worked as a senior researcher at a major pharmaceutical company along the Magnificent Mile. As team leader for Alzheimer's treatment research, she faced new challenges daily. She took pride in balancing work and family. Though she couldn't be a perfect mother, she believed Emma was growing up healthy and their family bonds were secure. Looking at her reflection in the train window, Melissa renewed her determination. Both her current drug research and time with family were important. This weekend, she would definitely take Emma to Lincoln Park Zoo. She'd invite Thomas too. At 8 p.m. on Friday, Melissa opened the front door with tired steps, her final experiment data verification having run longer than planned. The rain that had started in the evening had intensified, and the street trees swayed in the wind. "I'm home." Emma's usual "welcome back" didn't echo through the house. Instead, only the living room lights were unnaturally bright. Unfamiliar men's shoes in the entryway. Expensive leather shoes leaving water droplets on the floor. Walking toward the living room in her heels, she saw Thomas sitting on the sofa. Next to him sat an unfamiliar middle-aged man in a gray suit, holding a thick envelope. The atmosphere was unusually heavy. On the coffee table, half-empty coffee cups suggested they'd been waiting for her return for some time. "So you finally came home." Thomas's voice lacked its usual warmth. His eyes were cold, as if looking at a stranger. "Who is this person?" When Melissa asked, the middle-aged man stood up and offered his business card. The card was printed on expensive paper with embossed lettering. "I'm Charles Johnson from Professional Investigation Services." Detective. The word echoed in her mind. Melissa felt her breathing become slightly irregular. The sensation was similar to encountering unexpected data in the laboratory. "Where's Emma?" Her voice trembled slightly as she spoke her child's name. "Don't worry. She's with my mother." Thomas answered curtly. His eyes held an unusual gleam. His expensive new tie glowed oddly under the fluorescent lights. "What is this about? What is this about? Your betrayal has been proven. Look at this." The thick envelope was slammed onto the coffee table, photos spilling across the floor. Melissa picked one up. Her movement was as careful as handling a pipette in the laboratory. It showed her lying with an unknown man in a suite at the Chicago Ritz-Carlton. The date marked was 3 Saturdays ago. Through the window, the distinctive silhouette of the John Hancock Center was visible. "Remember now? The day you said you had an important meeting with colleagues and left the house." Thomas's voice was ice cold. The family photo on the wall behind them seemed to look down on the situation. Melissa silently studied the photo. The elegant hotel interior, the large bed, and indeed a woman who looked very much like her. But something was off. Her researcher's intuition caught the discrepancy. "Will I have a chance to explain?" Melissa's voice was calmer than expected. The self-control she'd developed through years of research was working. "Not necessary," Thomas barked. His expensive brand watch caught the light as his arm moved. "I'm demanding a DNA test. And I won't give up Emma's custody." Detective Johnson cleared his throat and began presenting new evidence. Hotel security camera footage. Cross-reference with Melissa's workplace entry records. Contact history with the alleged lover. The evidence piled up one after another, creating a small mountain of dark files on the table. Melissa slowly sat down and carefully examined each photo, as if analyzing important data in her laboratory. Outside the window, the rain grew stronger. "Get out tonight," Thomas commanded. His voice carried an unfamiliar urgency. "I've already contacted a lawyer. If you agree to divorce without compensation, we can keep this quiet." "As you say." Melissa finally spoke. Her voice was clear and unwavering, like when presenting experimental results. "Let's verify the truth." At those words, Thomas's expression twisted momentarily. His fingers unconsciously touching his expensive watch trembled slightly. "I'll accept both the DNA test and analysis by photo experts. However," Melissa stood up and took out her iPhone from her bag. The screen showed her latest selfie with Emma. "I'll be consulting with my lawyer as well. Get out of this house right now." Thomas's voice echoed through the room. It sounded somehow theatrical. "You'll never see Emma again. I could send these photos to her school." "I understand." Melissa picked up another photo and held it up to the light. Her gaze was sharp, like examining a sample under laboratory precision equipment. "Tonight. Or else." "I understand," Melissa answered calmly again. Her composure seemed to be unsettling Thomas. "I'll pack my things. However, this is a temporary measure. Until the court's decision." While climbing the stairs, Melissa stopped in front of her daughter's room. Emma's smiling photo was posted on the door. A handmade photo frame with the words, "World's Best Mom." Next to it, her recent science test with an A+ grade. "I will reveal the truth," she vowed silently as she began packing the minimum necessary belongings into her suitcase. In Melissa's mind, a plan to uncover the truth was already quietly but surely taking shape. Gray skies covered the high-rise buildings along the Magnificent Mile. A week had passed since the separation. Melissa sighed deeply while looking out the laboratory window. "Ms. Wilson, have you heard the rumors?" Whispers from colleagues echoed from across the lab. When she turned toward the feeling of eyes on her, several researchers hurriedly looked away. She recalled conversations exchanged in the pharmaceutical company's hallway yesterday. That serious-looking person. Even though she has a child. Friday morning's lab meeting. The department head suddenly interrupted her presentation. "Dr. Wilson, we'd prefer that personal issues not affect your work." She knew better than anyone that there was nothing wrong with her data. Still, she wasn't given a chance to defend herself. Returning to her small apartment in River North, she saw the pile of documents on her desk. A mountain of materials sent by her lawyer, Carol Brown. Trial preparation documents, property division calculations, and custody petition papers. On the refrigerator hung a handwritten letter from Emma. "Mom, when are you coming back? Grandma's house is boring. Is Dad angry?" Anxiety seeped through every word. Sunday worship at Fourth Presbyterian Church. Melissa sat alone in the seat where the family of 3 usually sat. During the sermon, she could hear regular churchgoers nearby whispering gossip. After the service, the pastor spoke to her kindly, but his eyes held a look of sympathy. Parent-teacher meeting at Francis W. Parker School. As soon as Melissa appeared, surrounding mothers' conversations stopped. Emma's classmate's mother hurriedly stood up. The rumors must be spreading among the children too. The photo analysis results are in. At Carol Brown's office, she received the expert's report. Digital image analysis expert Sarah Jenkins's report pointed out several unnatural aspects, though it hadn't reached decisive evidence. "We've heard from Lisa Collins, Smarteca's secretary." Carol's voice held a hint of hope. "Someone willing to testify about your husband's relationship with a young secretary." At that moment, Melissa's smartphone rang. It was Emma's school. "Your daughter is complaining of feeling unwell. We tried contacting her grandmother." Rushing to school, she found Emma curled up on the infirmary bed. "I wanted to see Mom." Her daughter's body trembled slightly as she hugged her. That night, Melissa examined the photos again. Her scientific intuition was catching on to something. The Ritz-Carlton logo, the bed arrangement, the view from the window. Each piece was slowly starting to fit together. A luxury apartment in River North, near Thomas's company. Photos taken by a private investigator showing a young woman coming and going. A woman's back view in flashy dress carrying luxury brand bags. They've filed for visitation restrictions. An email from Carol. Thomas's side had submitted new photos as evidence. "If you don't agree to withdraw, these will be sent to Emma's school." Melissa closed her eyes deeply. As a researcher, her thoughts moved between mother's instinct and scientific evidence. The answer was surely approaching. The DNA test date has been set. Notice from the court. Testing was ordered at Chicago City Hospital. As soon as the date was seen, Thomas's side submitted a postponement request. The reason given is overseas business travel. A slight smile appeared in Carol's voice. But the court denied the postponement. The high-rise apartment in River North. In surveillance camera footage, Thomas had his arm around a young woman's waist. The date matched the day the problematic photos were supposedly taken. The truth was now right before her eyes. Melissa quietly opened her laptop and began organizing new evidence. Like writing a research paper, she carefully built up each fact. Cook County Circuit Court. Tension filled the 11th floor courtroom of the Daly Center from early morning. Each time the heavy wooden doors opened, people in the gallery leaned forward. This was a crucial date scheduled for DNA test result disclosure and evidence examination regarding infidelity. First to enter the courtroom were Melissa and attorney Carol Brown. Dressed in a simple navy suit, Melissa maintained the same calm demeanor as if she were in her laboratory. She sat straight-backed, methodically arranging documents on the table. Next appeared Thomas and his lawyer. His usual haughty attitude had subsided, his face pale. His supposedly new Armani suit appeared unusually wrinkled. Thin sweat already beaded on his forehead. In the gallery sat Detective Johnson. Next to him, Sarah Jenkins, the photo analysis expert, was doing final checks on her computer screen. Across from them sat Lisa Collins, Smarteca's former secretary, anxiously wringing her hands. All rise. Judge Margaret O'Connor entered. Known as a distinguished judge in family cases with 40 years of experience. Let's begin with the DNA test results. The sound of Judge O'Connor opening the envelope echoed through the courtroom. Thomas's hand trembling became visibly stronger. His lawyer placed a hand on his shoulder, trying to restrain him. The test results confirm with 99.9999% probability that Emma Wilson is the biological child of Melissa Wilson and Thomas Wilson. Thomas's face gradually turned ashen. Next, regarding the photo analysis results. Sarah Jenkins took the witness stand. The problematic photos were projected onto the screen. These photos show multiple significant signs of manipulation. Jenkins explained carefully, avoiding technical terms. First, the angle of the John Hancock Center visible from the hotel window is physically impossible. Given the actual building positions, the building cannot be seen from this angle. A small murmur arose in the courtroom. Furthermore, the direction of the subject's shadows is inconsistent. Given the sun's position at the recorded time, such shadows cannot occur. Thomas's shoulders slumped. Most decisively, this. The screen image changed. The hair outline of the person alleged to be Melissa. Here we see characteristic traces of image processing software. These are typical artifacts that occur when combining an image cut from another photo. Lisa Collins was called as the next witness. Thomas Wilson has been in an affair with Jennifer Parker, a young company secretary, since last September. Her voice trembled but was clear. Ms. Parker was pressuring Mr. Wilson for marriage. She threatened to expose their relationship if the divorce wasn't finalized. The courtroom erupted in commotion. Carol stood up to submit new evidence. Security camera footage from the luxury apartment in River North. It shows Thomas Wilson and Jennifer Parker entering a room at the exact same time the problematic photos were allegedly taken. Thomas's face visibly contorted. Furthermore, testimony from someone at the detective agency. Carol produced new documents. Thomas Wilson paid a total of $150,000 for photo manipulation and false testimony. Judge O'Connor frowned while reviewing the documents. This is a serious matter. Photo forgery, suborning perjury, criminal charges must be considered. At this moment, the courtroom doors quietly opened. Emma's grandmother entered with Emma. Learning of her daughter-in-law's innocence, she had decided to let Emma see Melissa. Melissa smiled gently at her daughter before turning forward again. At that moment, Thomas stood up. "I admit it." His voice was hoarse. "It was all my doing." The courtroom fell silent again. "I intended to marry Jennifer. But with a normal divorce, I'd lose half my assets. And Emma's custody." Thomas's voice broke. "The photos are all manipulated. Melissa did nothing wrong." Judge O'Connor fixed Thomas with a stern gaze. "Perjury, defamation, evidence tampering, these are serious crimes." The judgment was clear. Divorce granted. Property division heavily favoring Melissa. Full custody of Emma granted to Melissa. Criminal charges against Thomas were suggested. Outside the courtroom, Emma ran to Melissa. Mother and daughter held each other tightly. Behind them, spring sunlight streamed through the Daily Center's large windows. 6 months after the judgment, in autumn, a new family story was beginning in Wilmette's quiet residential area. Melissa and Emma had settled into a new home near their previous house. A white exterior with a dark green roof, the small front yard blooming with colorful flowers Emma had chosen. "Mom, look." Emma rushed in from school, holding out a test paper. Perfect score in science. Her grades had temporarily dropped during last year's turmoil, but had remarkably recovered over these 6 months. Now she was more vibrant than ever. "That's my girl." Melissa embraced her daughter tenderly. Warm dinner for 2 was ready on the kitchen island counter. Home-cooked meals made with fresh ingredients from Whole Foods Market. She now had time to prepare elaborate menus that she couldn't manage before when overwhelmed with work. "Hey, can we go to Lincoln Park Zoo next weekend?" Emma asked with a mouthful of pasta. "Of course. But first, don't you want to see the new laboratory?" Melissa smiled. After the trial, her achievements at the pharmaceutical company were recognized with a promotion to Deputy Director of Research. She now led a team developing new Alzheimer's treatment drugs. A new family photo hung on the living room wall. It showed Melissa and Emma, and surprisingly, Melissa's parents as well. The incident had helped repair their previously distant relationship with her family. Oh, a call from Samantha. Emma picked up her smartphone. Samantha was Emma's new best friend. Meeting her, who was also being raised by a single mother, had become a source of emotional support for Emma. After ending the call, Emma started her homework. The room that was once her father's study had been renovated into a bright study room where mother and daughter studied together. "Hey Mom, I want to be a researcher," Emma suddenly said. "I want to be someone who finds the truth, like you." Melissa felt tears welling up in her eyes. Meanwhile, Thomas was serving time in prison. He had received a 2-year sentence for perjury and evidence tampering. Immediately fired from Smart Tech, his mistress Jennifer had also disappeared. disowned by his parents and having completely lost his social credibility. On the other hand, Melissa's life showed new fulfillment. On weekends, she and Emma would visit the Chicago Art Institute or ride boats at Navy Pier. They cherished their mother-daughter time together. At Fourth Presbyterian Church, she had started a support group for single mothers. She wanted to help other mothers in similar situations by sharing her experience. "Melissa, your new paper got great reviews," her colleague Jane called out. She was one of the few colleagues who had consistently supported Melissa during that turbulent time. Now they were close friends. "Hey Mom." One night, Emma asked before bed. "Will we always be happy?" "Of course." Melissa gently stroked her daughter's hair. "Because we have each other." Outside the window, Chicago's night view sparkled. The lights of the John Hancock Center, Navy Pier's Ferris wheel, and moonlight reflecting on Lake Michigan. Everything seemed to be celebrating their new beginning. One holiday morning, while heading to Whole Foods Market together, Emma pointed at the sky. "Mom, a rainbow." Melissa looked up at the sky, holding her daughter's hand. Indeed, a beautiful rainbow arched over Chicago's skyscrapers. It looked like a sign of hope, announcing the beginning of a new story. Catherine Martin awoke before her alarm clock's 5:30 chime. The affluent McAllister Groveland district in suburban St. Paul was still wrapped in silence. Through her bedroom window, Victorian mansions lined up neatly, beginning to emerge in the dim light. The May morning, heralding the end of spring, was still chilly, with a thin frost coating the window panes. She remembered moving into this house 10 years ago. The joy of acquiring what was considered the finest property in the area, together with her husband David, then a rising executive at First Minnesota Bank, and their young daughter Lily, remained vivid in her memory. Slipping out of bed, Catherine quietly peeked into 8-year-old Lily's room next door. The St. Mary's school uniform hung on a hanger, textbooks neatly arranged on the desk. She smiled at her daughter's peaceful sleeping face. "She's grown into such a good child," she thought as she descended the stairs. As usual, she switched on the coffee maker and began preparing breakfast. The rich aroma of caribou coffee beans began wafting through the spacious kitchen. The modern, predominantly white kitchen was Catherine's pride. On weekends, she would shop at Kowalski's markets, keeping the refrigerator consistently stocked with fresh ingredients. "A perfect day starts with a perfect breakfast," Catherine whispered softly as she whisked organic eggs and toasted whole grain bread. Her efficiency was a source of pride, much like her decade-long career at the major accounting firm Stevenson and Partners. Balancing work and family wasn't easy, but she believed that with proper routines, anything was manageable. At 6:45, footsteps could be heard descending the stairs. The antique grandfather clock in the entrance hall quietly marked time. "Good morning, honey." David appeared, dressed as always in his navy suit, befitting his position as branch manager at First Minnesota Bank. His Windsor-knotted tie was Catherine's Christmas gift from last year. "How's today looking?" "Busy again?" Catherine asked, to which David replied while glancing at the newspaper, Yes, we have a new investment proposal review. Might be late tonight. There was an uneasiness in his voice. An expression she'd been seeing more often lately. Just then, an energetic voice echoed from upstairs. Mom, Dad, good morning. Lily bounded down the stairs, her St. Mary's navy jumper skirt bouncing with each step. Lily, no running. The mother's warning couldn't dampen her daughter's bright morning entrance. The family's conversation around the breakfast table was typically light-hearted. Lily talked about yesterday's math test, David about his bank colleagues, and Catherine about weekend events at the Catholic Church of St. Cecilia. They planned weekend walks in Como Park and reminisced about memories from the Minnesota State Fair. On the surface, nothing seemed different. However, lately, something had definitely changed. Her husband's late-night phone calls. The sound of hushed conversations with someone. Unusual fluctuations in their bank account balance. And above all, her daughter's worried expressions. Though Catherine sensed these irregularities, she didn't voice her concerns. Surely, it must be work stress. She tried to convince herself of this. That morning too, the breakfast scene appeared normal. Only her husband's behavior was slightly different. David left his meal unfinished and stood up before even emptying half his coffee cup. I'm heading out early today, he said, hastily putting on his jacket. He added, but I'll be home early tonight. He smiled gently at Catherine and Lily. At 4:30 p.m., Catherine arrived at the after-school care center. Though daylight still lingered, the air was gradually growing cooler. The street trees' dense green foliage marked the transition from spring to summer. The center, located on St. Mary's School grounds, was housed in a red brick building that spoke to the area's history. The entrance displayed After School Club alongside the school motto, Faith, Knowledge, and Service. Entering the classroom, she found her daughter concentrated on math workbook exercises. Her friend Amy sat nearby. The two regularly spent their after-school homework time together. On the desk lay the remains of their snack, an apple and empty milk container. Lily ran over joyfully. Her navy jumper skirt was still as neat as in the morning, though her white socks had slipped down slightly. In her backpack, she carefully stored an art project she had completed that day. Look, I made a present for Dad. Lily exclaimed. A photo frame made of colorful origami paper. Dear Papa was written carefully on it. Small stars decorated the frame, reflecting Lily's characteristic cuteness. When Catherine greeted the teacher, Jane smiled kindly. Lily is such a good child. She finished all her homework today too. On their way to the parking lot, Lily cheerfully talked about her day at school, how the bean sprout she was observing in science class had grown, and how she played jump rope with Amy during recess. These moments were wrapped in the simple happiness of daily life. Mother and daughter got into the car. Catherine's work briefcase sat in the passenger seat, with Lily in the back. The sound of seatbelts clicking echoed in the car. They set off on their usual route home toward the McAllister Groveland district. Mom, Dad's been acting strange lately, Lily suddenly said. Catherine's hands tightened on the steering wheel. She glanced at her daughter's reflection in the rearview mirror. How so? He talks to someone in the middle of the night. Yesterday, I heard him say, "I can't wait any longer." And then Lily hesitated. And then I found lots of papers I'd never seen before in Dad's desk, with lots of numbers written on them. Catherine felt her chest tighten. Indeed, her husband's recent behavior had been unusual. The late-night calls, the strange account movements, and this morning's hurried departure. Everything seemed to suggest something. Just as they were about to enter their residential area, a sudden siren pierced the quiet evening streets. The harsh sound reverberated off the walls of the elegant mansions, growing louder. In the rearview mirror, police car lights flashed blue and red. And there wasn't just one. Multiple police vehicles approached, surrounding her car as if planned. What could this be? As Catherine's face showed confusion, the police radio came through clearly. Suspect vehicle confirmed, establish containment. Repeat. Suspect vehicle confirmed, establish containment. Her heart began racing. She couldn't understand what was happening. Then, a megaphone voice shook the evening air. Black Volvo, pull over to the shoulder immediately. Catherine followed the instruction, slowly bringing the car to a stop. Street trees cast long shadows on the car. Lily's frightened voice trembled. Mom. I'm scared. Why are the police? It's all right, Lily. This must be some mistake. Though she said this, Catherine's hands were shaking. Her fingers gripping the steering wheel had turned white. All the police officers who stepped out of their cars had their guns drawn. It was a scene she had only ever seen on television. Exit the vehicle. Slowly, with your hands up. The megaphone voice rang out again. Catherine took a deep breath and turned to her daughter. Lily's face was pale, her small body trembling. Lily, it's okay. Mom will protect you. She unfastened her seatbelt and moved to the back seat to embrace her daughter. Lily's body carried the scent of school lunch and crayons. Slowly opening the door, the cold air of late spring rushed into the car. She raised her hands as instructed. She could see her shadow stretching unusually long on the asphalt. Police officers approached, guns still drawn. One of them asked in a cold voice, "Do you know the whereabouts of David Martin?" At that moment, Lily's trembling intensified, and she whispered in her mother's arms. "Dad. Dad. Lily. What is it?" Tears welled up in her daughter's eyes as she continued with a trembling voice. "Dad said yesterday, I'm going to end it all," and then he was putting something in a big bag. In Catherine's mind, all the dots began connecting. Her husband's abnormal behavior. The late-night calls. And this morning's final smile. Everything seemed to have been prepared for this moment. The perfect family routine she thought she had seemed to crumble silently like a glass castle. The police officers guided mother and daughter to separate patrol cars. Lily clung to her mother, refusing to be separated. "Mom, I don't want to leave you." "It's okay, I'll be right beside you," Catherine tried to reassure her daughter with a trembling voice. As police sirens wailed, the trembling figures of mother and daughter stood illuminated in the twilight residential street. The interrogation room at St. Paul Police Western District was filled with the sterile light of fluorescent bulbs. Catherine sat in a hard chair, trying to comprehend the detective's words. The peaceful daily life from just an hour and a half ago felt like a distant past. The detective quietly began while looking at documents on the desk. A middle-aged man in a gray suit, his badge read, "Detective Thomas Wilson. Your husband, David Martin, is involved in fraudulent loans amounting to approximately $5 million. Those words made the interrogation room's air heavy. Catherine couldn't believe her ears. Fraudulent loans? It was discovered during First Minnesota Bank's internal investigation. He created multiple fictitious investment projects and misappropriated customer deposits without authorization. Detective Wilson flipped through the documents one by one. There were many familiar signatures lined up. All were David's. What's more serious is that this fraud wasn't committed alone. The detective pulled out a new document. A photograph was attached. "Do you know this woman?" The photo showed a young woman in her mid-20s, wearing a First Minnesota Bank uniform. "I might have seen her at bank training sessions." Jennifer Walker. "She's been in an intimate relationship with your husband for the past 2 years." Catherine's vision blurred for a moment. 2 years ago. That was right after David had been promoted to branch manager. An affair. Her own voice sounded like someone else's. "She's also an accomplice in the fraudulent loans. Customer information leaks, document forgery, fund transfers. She was involved in everything." Detective Wilson continued flipping through documents. "However, Walker has been cooperating with us since yesterday. One reason appears to be that your husband was involved with other women besides her." The cold air of the interrogation room constricted Catherine's lungs. A peaceful home. An ideal husband. Everything was crumbling like a castle made of sand. Your daughter's testimony has also provided important clues. Detective Wilson softened his tone slightly. "Where is Lily?" Maternal instinct suddenly welled up. "She's in the next room, talking with a child psychologist." "Don't worry." The detective smiled gently. "According to her, your husband has been making frequent phone calls late at night recently." Catherine nodded. Lily's worried expression flashed through her mind. "She said he often said, 'I can't wait any longer,' in the middle of the night." "Yes. In fact, David Martin had been rushing to move funds over the past few weeks. We believe he was planning to flee the country." Just then, there was a knock at the door. A young detective entered with documents. "Report, sir. The suspect's credit card history shows he purchased airline tickets to Mexico." Detective Wilson continued while reviewing the documents. "As of yesterday, approximately $3 million had been transferred to an account in the Cayman Islands. The remaining $2 million is currently under investigation. Catherine couldn't stop her hands from shaking. Daily work, housework, childcare. The life she had desperately built up was silently crumbling due to her husband's betrayal. Just as everything seemed to be going dark, the door opened again and Lily burst in, followed by a kind-looking female counselor. Catherine held her daughter tightly as she ran over. The small body was trembling. "I'm sorry about Dad." Lily's voice was wet with tears. "I saw the papers in Dad's desk. There were lots of numbers and names I didn't know." "Lily, you've done nothing wrong," Catherine said while stroking her daughter's back. At that moment, commotion could be heard from the hallway. The door opened, and a young detective hurriedly reported. "We found the suspect's vehicle near the airport." Detective Wilson quickly stood up. "Ma'am, could we have a bit more of your time? There are still things we need to confirm." The departure lobby of Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport was crowded with travelers waiting for evening flights. In the Airport Security Command Center, Detective Wilson was conducting final checks of the operation. Wall-mounted monitors displayed surveillance camera footage from various parts of the airport. It was past 8 p.m., and the spring night was growing darker. Suspect David Martin is scheduled for flight AM 2751 to Mexico City. Boarding begins in 40 minutes, a young officer reported, tension evident in his voice. Just then, the command center door opened. Jennifer, brought from the holding room, appeared with a tired expression. Her first Minnesota bank uniform was wrinkled, her makeup smeared. "I just received a call from Martin," she began with a trembling voice. "He apologized for deceiving me, and said this would be his last call." "What exactly did he say?" Detective Wilson leaned forward. "He said he had arranged to meet another woman in Buenos Aires. It wasn't just me. It was all an act for the money." At that moment, the surveillance camera footage switched. A familiar figure appeared near the check-in counter in the departure lobby. Navy suit with a black carry-on case. Without doubt, it was David Martin. Just then, Catherine's mobile phone rang. A call from an unknown number. In the police station interrogation room, she held her breath. "You can answer it," Detective Wilson nodded. "Hello. Catherine." A familiar voice. But different from her husband's usually gentle tone. "Is Lily there?" "Yes, she's sleeping next door." Catherine answered while watching her daughter's sleeping face. Lily had fallen asleep exhausted on the sofa in the police station's reception room. "I see, that's good." David's voice trembled. "I ruined everything. I can't ask for forgiveness, but..." "Why?" Catherine's voice was surprisingly calm. "Were 10 years of marriage and your promises to Lily all lies?" A long silence followed on the other end of the phone. "Not at first." David's voice grew hoarse. "After becoming branch manager, I felt the pressure. It started with small frauds. But once I started..." "And Jennifer?" "The other women? I met her through a client introduction. I thought using her would make it easier to move funds. David's voice broke off. But in the end, I was the one being used. They had other men too. At that moment, the airport surveillance cameras caught David's movement. He was moving away from the check-in counter, heading toward an emergency exit. Detective Wilson's voice echoed through the airport. "Stop right there." David stopped, still holding the phone. Surrounding passengers scattered with screams. "Catherine, one last thing. The bank account password is Lily's birthday and the date of our first kiss. The remaining funds there, at least for Lily's education." Police officers with drawn guns gradually tightened their containment. "Catherine, please, take care of Lily." The phone call ended. The next moment, security cameras captured the decisive moment. David Martin slowly raised both hands. His carry-on case fell to the floor with a thud. Bundles of cash spilled out. Hours later, at the St. Paul Police Department press conference room, Detective Wilson was explaining the case outline amidst a storm of camera flashes. In the reception room, Catherine held Lily close. Outside the window, the dawn sky was gradually brightening. The story of their broken family had reached its end. However, the new story of mother and daughter was about to begin. As they were leaving the police station, Margaret Smith was waiting for them. "Come stay with me. You're not alone." Catherine shed tears at her kind words. The warmth of the community would help ease the difficult days ahead. The next morning's newspapers covered the incident extensively. However, Catherine didn't see those headlines. That morning, she was meeting with a lawyer to begin divorce proceedings. And searching for a new school for Lily. On a night when they seemed to have lost everything, the bond between mother and daughter had grown stronger. The spring sunlight announced the beginning of a new day. 1 year later, a new morning began in the city of Duluth, about 2 hours north of St. Paul by car. A fresh breeze from Lake Superior rustled the maple trees lining the street. "Lily, hurry up." Catherine's voice rang out from a modest house. White walls with green window frames, tulips blooming in the small front yard. It had been half a year since they moved into this house. "Coming." 9-year-old Lily came running down the stairs. Instead of St. Mary's navy jumper skirt, she wore the light blue blazer of Duluth Lakeview Elementary School. "Did you finish all your homework?" "Yes. I finished it at the library with Anna yesterday." Catherine smiled. Anna was a neighborhood girl they met right after moving. The two quickly became best friends. Lily had adapted to the new environment much faster than expected. On the breakfast table, dishes were set for two as usual. Oatmeal and fruit, and Catherine's beloved caribou coffee. The days of setting the table for three felt like a distant past. "Hey Mom," Lily began quietly while stirring her oatmeal. "Can I go see Dad next week?" Catherine's hand paused for a moment. David had received a 10-year prison sentence for fraudulent loans and embezzlement. Father-daughter visits at Stillwater Prison were permitted only once every 2 months. "Of course." But there's something I want to talk about first. Catherine looked straight into her daughter's eyes. The trials for Dad and Jennifer are all finished, and the compensation payments have been decided. All the Martin family assets would be seized as compensation to First Minnesota Bank. The house in St. Paul, David's retirement funds, everything was lost. However, Catherine had fought desperately to protect her daughter's education fund. But Lily's college fund is safe. Mom will definitely. I know, Lily interrupted her mother's words. I see you working late every night. Catherine felt her throat tighten. Since transferring to Stevenson and Partners Duluth branch, she had been working desperately. In addition to her day job, she also did accounting consulting work from home at night. Lily always greeted her exhausted mother with a warm smile when she returned home. And Catherine brought up a new topic. Aunt Margaret is coming to visit next weekend. Lily's face brightened. Margaret Smith had supported them continuously since the incident. Using her experience as a former counselor, she provided emotional support and helped with everything from arranging the move to introducing the new school. Yay! Aunt Margaret can meet my new friends. Just then, the doorbell rang. Good morning. With a cheerful voice, their neighbor Sarah Johnson peeked in. She drove Lily to school every morning. Sarah, thank you so much. Don't mention it. My daughter Amy seems happier with Lily around too. The new community was warmer than expected. The people of Duluth accepted Catherine and Lily without prying into their past. Mom, I'm going now. Lily stood up. Catherine hugged her daughter tightly. Take care. Have a wonderful day. The sky visible through the window was crystal clear blue. Beyond Lake Superior, the morning sun was rising to herald a new season. At 9 a.m., Catherine headed to her branch office. New project documents were piled on her desk. There had even been talk of promotion. The year of desperate work was slowly bearing fruit. During lunch break, she met with her colleague Jane at the nearby cafeteria. Catherine, about that matter, Jane began while picking at her organic salad. Have you thought about the teaching position at Duluth Community College? If it's evening part-time, you could balance it with your current job. A teaching position utilizing her accounting experience. New possibilities were gradually expanding. At 3 p.m., her mobile phone rang. She tensed for a moment at the unknown number, but it was her lawyer. Mrs. Martin, the settlement payment from David has been completed. The compensation from Jennifer Walker will also be transferred next week. In the evening, after finishing work, Catherine stopped by the lakeside park. Sitting on a bench, she gazed at the peaceful sunset. A year ago on that day, she thought she had lost everything. But the truly important things remained with her. Mom! Lily waved from across the park. Her daughter's smile getting out of Sarah's car shone in the sunset. Hey Mom, guess what? The teacher praised me today, Lily said excitedly, showing her writing assignment. The theme was, My Treasure. It read, My treasure is my mom's smile. Even when things are hard, Mom keeps moving forward, she's my hero. I want to keep making new memories with Mom. Catherine held her daughter tightly. The spring breeze gently caressed their hair. Here in this city, their new life had truly begun.